I first heard about this movie actually was about a few years ago. One of the Hong Kong producers, they came to me and wanted to do a action flick, an action movie, anything. Nothing to do with, of course, our end product, the SPL, right? He wanted to do a period film. Then after months of working on the script and finally we came out to a conclusion that period film wasn't the way to go, because the past couple of years Hong Kong films focus too many on the period pieces. That's the Wilson Yip's approach, you know, and actually that's really his style of filmmaking. He liked to explore the darkness of mankind, and you see in his earlier work. Some of his best works they're pretty dark, pretty sad ending. I've pretty much done everything under the sun: period film, modern film, kung fu flicks, you know, all of those. As an action director, as an actor, as a director and a producer. Throughout many years of my devotion to the industry, I was always known to really still maintain the realistic approach to on-screen fighting. Okay, whether it is a period film or a modern film, I focus a lot on the realism of action movements on screen. And I see that the past couple of years, just too many of these period film wire for nothing, and for the sake of wire work. I think by the time we come with an action film, I don't think the audience would want to go back and see these type of action. So I wanted to go back to the basic where Bruce Lee started it all, right? I think action film is just like any other type of art, music. It's expressing yourself. It has to be as real as possible. I think the most classic artistic expression are the one that are totally truthful. If you want to make a martial art film, it has to be that actor has to be a real deal. He has to know martial arts. Okay, you can't have a editor, have a director comes in with fancy camera works and cut them up with the shots and expect the audience to buy it. Everybody know martial art nowadays. Every single one, doesn't matter what culture you are. Martial art no longer an Asian thing. It's a world trend. You know, it became a part of our life, right? You see it on TV, you see it on cartoon, you see it everywhere, right? So in SPL, that was my approach, bringing the real martial arts back to action films. There's a misconception of how to make an action films, I think, in today's filmmaking world, right? I think a lot of people, when they think of actions, they think of a lot of movements. In some degree, of course, right? There's pretty obvious reason, but I think people are taking the action itself for granted, that they think anyone who have no idea of physical movement, when you try to film a person do an action, a physical expression, you move the camera all over the place. You're missing the beauty of the physical movement itself. So in SPL, what I attempted to do, and I believe I did it successfully, was that I didn't want to rely on certain cuts for the sake of cutting. Okay, we need a close up here, and we need another shots over here. I didn't think it was necessary, especially when two actors were well-trained martial artists, right? I wanted to bring the beauty of watching it from a distance, watching it from a full perspective, so you can see the whole body's alignments, the expression of full body execution, and kept that shot as long as possible, so the audience can truly appreciate our performance. As a filmmaker, as a director, I wanted to bring the uniqueness of whatever the genre is. SPL is a modern cop film, right? And it's based on true story. It's based on reality in Hong Kong. cops, gangs, right? I've been asked many times would I have pressure working with someone like him, you know. Not at all. I was really motivated and thrilled to be able to square off with him on films, and the only pressure I always give myself, just like every other films, is the pressure purely on myself, because I'm constantly trying to top my own work. My reaction to Samuel's acting, I always have a great admiration for his contribution to our industry, from his directing films, from his acting abilities, and I have no doubts that he's going to give this character a blast. This is his very first time playing a bad guy, right? A bad character. But like you said, after the films came out and all the critics were saying, it's probably one of his best work in his entire career. But I'm learning new things all the time. In order for audience to watch and martial art films, you really have to keep up to date. And on the one hand, I'm as continues to strive to be a better martial artist all the time, you know, even though I spend most of my time right now dedicating to the film world. But I started off as a martial artist. This is my blood, so I try to follow what's out there. And obviously the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and the UFC fighting styles are the hardest things all over, you know. And I didn't want to miss the opportunities to learn something new, you know. And I saw, and no one really tried to, or at least successfully anyway, you know, to really put these type of fighting style on films. I mean, you could easily turn into a documentary, and you might as well just watch the UFC fight, right? Watch it on cable or rent the DVDs. But to really put it on films and shoot it the right cinematic way, you know, I didn't think it was done before, and I wanted to do that in SPL. I think these type of fighting, you know, close range fighting or ground fighting, you know, but to shoot it a proper way and also bring the true elements of these fightings, the essence of fightings, it really takes a lot of understanding of martial art itself. And on the other hand, you really have to understand how to shoot action, how to shoot martial art. Otherwise, if neither of these cannot be missing, both elements has to come together and make it right on film. Understanding of martial art, true martial arts, the techniques, the movements, the direction of these movements, the body language. At the same time, understand your film language and how to bring film language across, collaborating with the rest of the story and the characters. The process of putting movements on screen, that particular ending scenes. Let's say that the process of putting all martial arts actions on screen, at least the way I do it is, you have to understand films, you have to understand characters, you have to understand storytelling. Then you incorporate other elements like martial arts in this case. What kind of background does my character have? What kind of martial art training? How do you approach it? But of course, throughout many years of making martial art films, you know, I already know my techniques of the film techniques. How do you capture these movements? I have it in my ways. I would have it in my head first. Then I would come up with visions. I would come up with images, and because of my many years in the film industry, in these type of films, right? All these shots are already edited and connected in my head already. So when I walk on my set, I see the location, and I would kind of guide a direct, pretty much, you know, I direct the in the Western industry, you walk through it. I think that's the term for it in the Western industry. You walk through the scene. Okay, character A comes in, and what do? You meet character B. Okay, what do you do? Okay, and then these movements start kind of brought it out of my head. And the first step is I would have some of my assistants to kind of play me and play the opposite opponents and kind of walk through these movements. And as I was walking through these movements, that these movements already established in my head, I would also instruct my camera operator and say, this is the shot I want this shot, that shot, and then, this is the long shots, and I would cut away from this shot, and basically just drawing out all the visions from my head and working with all my technicians, cameraman, my martial art assistants, and everyone on the set, my actors, the props, and then we would walk through it several times, and we go right into it. We didn't have enough. We usually don't have enough time anyway, right? But in SPL case, we didn't have that many so-called rehearsal times to block it out. So we pretty much went to the set and start shooting it. When I'm directing myself, obviously it's much harder than when I'm directing another person. But on the other hand, sometimes it's easier because I know exactly what I want out of that shot, and I'll deliver. Whereas if I'm just action directing for another, even if he's the greatest martial artist, but he doesn't understand what kind of vision, what kind of body language that I want on that shot, so he can't give me the exact flavor what I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about movements, because movements are just movement, like Bruce Lee said. We can all throw a side kick, but to throw a side kick with charisma, uniqueness, that's something special. That's something takes a lot of years of film experience, acting experience, understanding your lens, and your interacting with the audience. You're flirting, you're playing with the audience, right? That takes a lot. So when I'm directing myself, on one hand, physically, mentally, I'm much harder on me because I have to do it all, right? But on the other hand, it's easier because I pretty much know, okay, I need this shot and how many movements, and the way I move, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna synchronize with the camera. These camera movements is something that I already planned out. So at the end, it's very specific. As a actor working in front of a cameras, and because I have just so many years of working in these type of films, and those films were the standard of those films were so the level was so high that it gave me so much experience, so much knowledge of. Right now, you can just turn the camera and I have a sixth sense. I have a feeling of, even if the camera is behind me, and I know that in which angle I'm being shot. And sometimes I make adjustment for the cameraman. So if his timing is a little off, or for example, if his camera comes too close, I would adjust my choreography and physical movements, and by taking a step back and to keeping that specific framework, specific rhythm and physical expression on these shots. So I kind of work hand to hand. It's like dancing with the cameraman. Why do I think it took that journey to have SPL discovered? Just like any other great film, I think filmmaking today is a collaboration of not only talents and technicians and salesperson. It takes a lot of timing, and it has to go through its own journey, right? Being tested, and test the water, and you just never know. I mean, the biggest box office, I understand that many successful American Hollywood blockbuster, they would put on shelf for the longest time until they were, one producer came up with a vision and thought that, let's do this, and boom, you have box office groundbreaking numbers. I think that's what happened to SPL. I think there's an old Chinese saying, if you real gold, you can withstand the test through times. What do I think this film worked? I think first of all is obviously the action. It's how these action was shot. I mean, yes, some of the choreography they were interesting and they were refreshing. At least for the longest time, audience haven't seen these type of movements, and then having some wider shots and long shots, seeing two real martial art actors without cutting away, showing off their skills, and at the end fighting with Samo, putting in some of the UFC fighting style. That's something fresh, right? But I think it's the overall approach of how do you bring these action on screen on a cop movies. I mean, if you think of cop movies, cop gangster actions, you think of fast cutting. A lot of camera movements, right? In SPL case, we didn't really need that because we were so secure and so confident of the movement itself. The reason why I wanted to work with Wilson before SPL, because I wanted to really explore the possibility of these type of films. But usually when you think of a martial art film or an action film, you don't think of heavy dramatic moments, right? You don't think of sensitive moments. Usually are just fast-paced action, boom, excitement. So combining a director like Wilson, I think it would be a great chemistry combining together. Having that type of artistic, slower pace, kind of more of a European style of filmmaking. Combining a Hong Kong action, Hollywood style actions. Combining the two would give you something fresh. And it worked in SPL.